So, hello, good afternoon. It is actually afternoon here in Zone 7B, North Carolina, Charlotte area. And so today I want to go over, uh, of course, this is for all our newer beginners for gardening, and just to go over what is an annual, perennial, some of our common definitions. And so I brought out a few of the plants. I don't have plant hauls. My plant hauls are plants that I already have. Okay, so whenever you see me do plant hauls, more than likely it's going to be plants I already have in the garden. And so you can probably hear Coda as deciding that one of my pots is probably the best thing he's ever had as far as a toy. So he's so funny. So the first thing we're going to talk about is annuals. And I do have to put in a little disclaimer. There are some plants that are annuals that can grow perennially here. But one of them comes as both, and it strictly is an annual, and that's the lantana. Lantana is a beautiful mounding perennial plant, and whenever you go to any of the big box stores or garden centers, make sure you get the one that is a perennial that comes back every year. This one, I believe, because remember what we talked about with the plant tags, is that the plant tags can be very basic, and a lot of times, sometimes they won't tell you that a plant is an annual or a perennial. I'm about to snatch this off. Okay, so this one doesn't even put if this is the annual lantana, because there's a difference between the lantana plants. But either way, this plant is going to get a nice bushy mound, and we'll have a little bit later in the video having a close-up of the plant tags and the things to look for, because it's going to give you your water requirements, your light requirements. Light such being, is it sun, is it shade, is it a little bit of both, your spacing, which is really important with maybe some of your larger plants. Not necessarily annuals so much. I mean, you don't want things packed close together, but a lot of times gardeners like to put things a little bit closer than what the tag says, because it just gives you a much fuller look to the garden and so forth. Because a lot of times if you plant exactly with the spacing, the plants won't overlap a little bit, and you will get this kind of really spaced out look, and it doesn't look really cute. So annuals are plants that, this is the official definition, a plant that blooms, produces seed, and dies in 1 year. Many, though, are that they say are perennial, are actually annuals that actually are perennial in the deep south. So lantana will grow year-round in the deep south. So you don't have to worry about that being an annual. Another one is a canna. A canna lily, not calla, canna, C-A-N-N-A, is a tropical, and that grows year-round down in Florida. Does not grow year-round here necessarily. Depending on how mild our winters are, it can. So I've grown cannas in the yard year-round for years, but then we had a hard frost and they all died, and I had to go buy new ones. So it's more of a tender perennial. There's a lot of definitions in there, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. So a lantana perennial is probably a tender perennial, which means that if it gets too cold, it's not going to last. But if it's just right, it'll come back for you. Okay? So again, annuals, you have to buy annually. That's how I always define it. The official definition, the plant that blooms, produces seed, and dies in 1 year. Okay, yes. But to me, it's a plant that you have to buy every year, annually. Perennial plant. A perennial is a plant that, full definition, a plant that completes its full life cycle. Let's see. Oh, I went to biennial. Sorry. So a perennial is a plant that grows and flowers for years. They're either evergreens, or they may die back to the ground in the winter, or actually fall or winter seasons, but will grow again the following season. So basically, with the perennial plant, perennially it comes back every year, every year, every year. Some are longer growing than others. Some are short growing perennials, where they may last 5, 6, 7, under 10 years, those are shorter growing perennials, whereas you have some perennials like peonies, which can outlive you. So those can grow for 50 years, okay? And then you have, like here's a perennial. So your hostas that we love so much, this has a little dirt on it. This is one I dug up, so this is my plant haul. I can probably, this is not one I need to divide. This is, I think a squirrel moved this. So I had to dig it up in the front bed that was full sun, but it was growing. Okay, next definition is a biennial. I never buy biennials unless I just can't take it anymore. Biennials, which is a plant that completes its full life cycle in 2 seasons. It provides leaves or produces leaves in the first year and then flowers in the second. Those plants tend to be your foxgloves, your delphiniums, and a few others that grow like that. And so I don't really buy those that often. I love foxgloves though, and they're just so beautiful, and they have that long stalk that comes up and it's just full of flowers. But you know, that one is just like you pay this nice amount of money, usually like $14, $15 for one plant, just so that it could die the next year. Because you know, when you buy it, you're buying it and you're getting blooms that year. Well, that means it's gone. Now they do self-seed, but you just got to make sure you get the seeds in the ground, okay? You know, if you have critters that like to come around and eat those seeds, a lot of birds and things like that, they will eat those seeds. So as far as I've seen, because I've never had any that you know, were self-sown and actually came back for me. I never got those seeds unless I actually went in and saved the seed from the pot. Okay, so foxgloves, delphiniums, and like I said, with annuals again. Now, annuals will also, like the definition says, it will give you seeds. So perfect annual to me is a marigold. You can always get seeds, and you get dozens of seeds from like one plant as it, you know, from one bud. As it dies back, you need to let them dry out. Once they dry out, you pick them, and then you can just open up the dead petals from the flower, and there's like 10, 15 seeds in there. And you can just put those in a little cloth or a little baggie and put them in the fridge. Not a baggie. They have special seed packets that you can purchase when you're seeding your own stuff, and you can put it in the fridge to cool until you're ready to plant. But here's some more annuals. So Calais, which everyone loves. This is something that you can just basically pinch off, get cuttings, and root them out, and you have plants next year. So you don't lose this plant. You actually can keep this plant, and you can overwinter it in your, like we have a basement, so I can actually overwinter it there, leave it in the pot, and just protect the pot really good. And you can actually set it in the ground, protect it with a lot of mulch and things like that if you have a mild winter, and it may come back. Otherwise, dig it up, pinch it back, and put it in seed cells. And then same thing with the lantana and stuff like that. You can just overwinter it if you have a greenhouse and so forth. Other plants, this is mine. This is a bulb. Okay, so as you can see, there's your bulb plant right there. I'm leaving this dirt on here because I need this on here. But this is a bulb for a lily. And so when you plant, it's always going to say that with bulbs, you always plant 3 times as deep as the bulb itself. To me, you need to plant, if you have the plant, even though 3 times would be like right about here, I would plant up to here, because these plants get very tall. Some of them can be as tall as you, so you need to plant very deeply. Okay, then we have tubers. I don't know if you can see this, but if you can see my face, you can see this. So, a tuber for an iris. So for old gardeners who've been gardening a long time, we would just cut that off. No big deal. Brown on the leaves. This one has not bloomed yet. I dug a lot of these up just in the last week, so they haven't bloomed yet. And what you get with tubers, which are so easy to grow because you don't even have to plant deeply with these. You just need to make sure the roots are covered. You're planting like this, and you literally have that bit sticking up from the ground. All you're making sure is that this part is covered, right? Hopefully you can see that. So with these, and splitting and dividing is basically when you're doing division, you're dividing up a perennial plant. Okay, when you divide a plant, you can divide by cutting, by pulling apart plants, because what you get with these is you'll have these plants attached to the mother plant, and you can just work them apart and they come apart, and it does not hurt the plant. As long as you have roots, you're good. Okay. And so those are the biggest ones we want to talk about. There are a lot more. There are corms, tubers, bulbs, of course, like I said. And then as far as dividing the plants, splitting, deadheading, there's all these different terms and things like that. But everything is very, very straightforward. And so like I said, at the end of the video, we're going to go over plant tags. So we'll have definitions up for you. If you have questions about definitions or want to go back over some, I'm sure we can. But as far as the plant labels and being able to discern that stuff is very important, especially when you're going and using your money to purchase plants. It's very important to have those. I'm done.